Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to use this microphone. I know this isn't a very big room, but we are recording this meeting on Facebook Live, and we're also recording the meeting so it's available for people that want to watch it at a later date. But my name is Geeta Newkirk. I have the great pleasure of serving as the city manager for the city of Highland Park, and want to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here for this very important community meeting coming together around public safety. I'd like to do right now is just introduce our exceptional team. I have had the pleasure of representing the city of Highland Park for 10 years. In total, I am celebrating almost 30 years working in local government management, and I can tell you affirmatively that the men and women representing the city of Highland Park Police Department and all of our departments are truly the best in the nation. We are so fortunate as a community to have such high caliber professionals that provide quality service. They're smart, they're proactive, and really it's a pleasure and honor to work with all of them. So why don't we go ahead and do introductions, Chief?
Okay, good evening. My name is Lou Jogman. I'm the Chief of Police for the Police Department, and I've been here since 2018. And I, like the City Manager, I've got about 30 years in law enforcement and government service, and I would absolutely echo that we have an unbelievable staff here in Highland Park. I'm currently the president for the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police as well, so this is a year where I serve as the president, so I've had the opportunity to really get around the state quite a bit and see kind of what's out there. And while we've got a lot of great law enforcement officers in Illinois, I would put ours up against anybody. They do a phenomenal job. We try to give 110% on every call, on every case, and I could sit here for hours and tell you some of the highlights of the cases that our officers and detectives have done here that I just, I don't see everywhere. And I think it's a testament to them and their commitment to our community and to you all. And just makes me really, really proud to be part of this organization. So over the last couple of years, we started a program to try to personalize law enforcement a little bit more, which is our Police Beat Coordinator program. And you'll see a number of them here today, and we're going to go through the introductions and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I'm going to start with just kind of go around to some of the staff that we've got with us. So go here. Introduce yourself. Yeah. Yes.
Bill Monaguidi, I'm the Deputy Chief.
Bill Monaguidi.
Good evening, Chris O'Neill, Patrol Division.
Patrol Division Commander.
Jerry Cameron, Investigations.
Okay. I'll get him. Investigations. Yeah, I'll get him in a second.
Matt Bullock, Police Officer.
Amber Knischke, Police Officer. Jackie White, also Police Officer.
Don Taylor, Police Sergeant, and get the opportunity to be the Police Beat Coordinator Supervisor. Officer Reyes,
Police officer. And so I was not excluding Brent Reynolds. Brent Reynolds right here. We contract out with a dispatch service. So we used to do it in-house in Highland Park, but it makes a lot of sense to kind of go outside and work with other communities, and there's a lot of benefit to that. So Brent Reynolds, go ahead, introduce yourself.
I'm Brent Reynolds, I'm the 911 Director. We serve 13 communities, including Highland Park. We have 2 dispatch centers, one located in the Highland Park Police Department, and then the other one is located in
See, he does it way better, so.
One of the great things about having these community meetings for us is we get an opportunity to engage and meet with a number of our residents. And so if we could just take a moment, if you're comfortable introducing yourself, and again, because this meeting is on Facebook Live and being recorded, if you could just state your name and if you'd like to share the general kind of neighborhood where you live. We'll start here if you're interested.
Paula and Howard Serwer. We live at 2650 Point Drive.
Okay, okay. Yeah, please don't give your exact address, just the general area, your neighborhood.
That's okay.
Fine. We're here because we were burglarized last December 2021, and it was a shock to us. We were broken into through our master bath, a sliding door. We had a burglar alarm, we had motion detectors throughout the house, we had security lights around the house. We never thought that we needed glass breakage protection on our very thick and almost industrial grade glass doors. Sledgehammers we used to smash the doors. When we entered our home after returning from a vacation, we had to turn off our own alarm. My wife thought she was having a headache, so she went to the rear, to the bathroom, to get some aspirin and encountered glass all over, clothing strewn about our respective closets. Tremendous damage. They broke through a wall to get to a safe that I had embedded in the wall. These people knew what they were doing. They must have known that we were going to be gone, or they cased the house, or they knocked on windows. Detective D. Cristofero was very encouraging that evening, and afterwards and following up, we were trying to figure out if there was any commonality in the facts relating to our break-in and those that occurred in Hibernia or other areas just west of us. And I don't know where we're at with that. We have since added glass breakage protection.
Yeah, maybe,
So maybe if you-
yeah, don't say,
yeah.
this is being recorded, so let's keep, we can talk, so.
We've added
Yes.
Other measures, yes, yes,
All
yes,
right, look at it if you can.
yes.
Well, people, yeah, so, thank you, if you could just have a seat, because
And we're going to talk about, just
Yeah,
so
we're-
you know, you did everything right, and unfortunately, there are people out there that they will find ways, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, so.
You want me to stop?
Yeah, no, that's fine, we'll have more opportunity, we're just going to go through everybody, and then we'll
Absolutely, right.
definitely have a little back and forth.
Right. People are certainly here for varied reasons, and most important, we're grateful that you're here.
Yeah, we are.
Because we definitely, this is about working with the community, and certainly our staff, we're going to share with you a number of things that we're doing as it pertains to one of our greatest priorities, which is public safety. But we certainly want the public to be informed as well, because you have a role in the public safety of our community and in the area. So thank you for sharing all that. And I've been right where you've been. My home was burglarized as well several years ago, and I know it's very difficult. Okay, so name and general neighborhood, if you'd like to share just the neighborhood.
First name's fine, right?
Yes, first name's fine.
Teresa, I live in Ravinia, so I get to hear the music. I've only lived here about 2.5 years, moved from Idaho to here.
Okay.
And I've worked in privacy for about 20 years. And so I'm really interested because I see things, people overshare, and I'm wondering how you interact and communicate to the residents in this area about oversharing, like what may have happened to you.
Perfect, perfect. And I'm going to get to everything we're going to cover in a moment, but thank you, yeah. And so hopefully, we will stay as long as you like, and we want to make sure everyone's questions are answered as well. Okay. Yep, name and just neighborhood.
Gina, this is my husband Kareem. We live next to the Sterlings and it's the other neighbors here. And we were also victims of just last week. Yeah.
Okay, all right, sorry about that.
Yep.
Okay.
My name's Cameron, this is my wife Roxanna, and we live in Highland Park as well, and with everything that's been going on in Highland Park, when I say everything, the layering thing that occurred this summer, and now with some of the burglaries that have hit closer to home in our neighborhoods, we wanted to express our gratitude to Highland Park.
We're very thankful.
And the, sorry,
Don't be.
and the police department for everything you do, and let you know that we're
I'll just say thank you as you're collecting yourself. Thank you. So thank
We're
you.
committed citizens, and we want to be engaged with the city and the village to make sure that Highland Park stays the beautiful gem that it has been for decades. I grew up on the North Shore. My parents live in Highland Park. I've been here for decades, and I decided to raise a family here. And it's critically important to us to make sure that you know that we are engaged, and we expect the city to continue to do everything it can, even with the limited resources that we're all coming across, but we need to do more. Because Highland Park, it is a gem, and for people that want to come here and live here, it needs to stay that way. And it can't just be another community that's being victimized.
Indeed.
And that's what I wanted to express and work with you all to make this, to keep this place what it has been and what is known to be in the country for decades.
Thank you, thank you. Drew?
I'm Drew, I live in the Sherwood Forest area, like for a long time. And I'm just here to support the guys, because I appreciate what they do.
Thank you for being here. Sir?
Michael from used to be Architecture Point, along with all of our neighbors. I'm talking the longest because we were the first house there. There's been 30 years, and up until last year, it's been pristine. So we want to know everything we can do and work with the city to get back to the way it was. I would say one thing, we were out town last week for a while, and I had a ring notification at my doorbell. And of course, with everything that happened last week, I was like hysterical because there's nothing we could do. I called the non-emergency number, very fast, nice woman I talked to, and I explained to her what happened, described the person. I got a call back. I don't know where you guys were, but I got a call back. It was within a minute and a half from maybe somebody here that said, it turned out to be the fertilizer guys, from the Mexicans. I didn't know anything about it. This was a person in a hoodie or something, or we were worried sick, and the response was unbelievable. I don't know where, you must have been sitting outside or something.
Well, and thank you for calling. Thank you for calling.
My name's Robert. I'm actually Michael's neighbor. I'm just here to show support to my fellow neighbors that were burglarized.
Okay, thank you, Robert, for being here.
My name is Ellen. I live near Ravinia Park. I watch baseball. I've lived here most of my life, and I'm very appreciative of our police and fire departments, everything you've done for many years, and everything you did for all of us who were on Brooklyn Square on the 4th of July. I'm here because I'm concerned for my town. My parents still live in the community, my sister and her family. My husband and I raised our family here. And my concern is, and it might be better addressed even to the Corporation Council more than the police department, what can be communicated to those of us in town when incidents occur to keep people advised and to keep people informed so that speculation doesn't raise our level of anxiety even higher than it is. And possible improvements that can be made so that people know things, know what's going on, know what's happened and what to be worried about, and what not to be worried about.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you for everything that you do for all of us.
Thank you.
Okay, Barbara?
Yeah, I'm Barbara. I live in the Ravinia area and been there for 11 years, and I've, seen some trends like everybody else here. And I'm just a concerned citizen, and I know that you have to rely on us as much as we have to rely on you. And see the patrol cars when I'm walking with my neighbors' dogs every night, and that's very reassuring. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Would you like to introduce yourself? Yeah.
My name is Erin. I live in
Thanks for being here, Mary. Carolyn?
Carolyn Hirsch, I'm living in Virginia neighborhood.
I'm Mark Hirsch, Carolyn's husband. I'll expand on that a little bit more, but we've lived here for 18 years, and it's just been a privilege to get to know many of the officers, chief, number of the officers, and we see them at the art festivals, at Starbucks, at restaurants. They're just a vital part of our community, and it's just been so great to get to know many of them. And I would just share one little incident. One of the officers who I've known many of the years that I've been here, I had the need to have an officer come to our home once a few years ago for a minor incident, and the officer, she came to our home, and it was like we had never known each other. She was all business. I mean, she wanted to know the facts and what we needed to do, and just so professional, just perfectly exemplary of all the professionalism and care that I think every officer on the force shows. And just very grateful for everything you've done, particularly this year. It's been a rocky ride, but you guys are professionals, and we really, really appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Amanda?
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Patel. I'm the communications manager for the city.
Great. And Mindy?
Hi, I'm Mindy Jagman. I live here. My husband is Lou, the chief, and our 3 children, and we live on the Moraine Road.
Great, thank you. So we have a PowerPoint that is going to guide the presentation that we have this evening. And this is the agenda. So this is everything that we're going to cover. And after our presentation, again, we're happy to answer any questions you may have if there's anything that we didn't cover. For anyone watching at home, this PowerPoint presentation will be posted to the city's website tomorrow. So if you'd like to review anything in the future, please know that you can always go to our website. And for those of you who have joined us here, if you have not signed in, if you wouldn't mind signing in, and if you provide us your email address and you'd like to be signed up for the e-news, we can go ahead and sign you up for that. So this is the city's mission at the top. I'll give you a moment to read it. I won't read it for you. This mission is reviewed by the mayor and city council every year. We want to make sure that it provides the policy direction and encompasses everything that Highland Park is all about. So we review it every year. This is the mission that is guiding us this year and that will guide us into the upcoming calendar year as well. And then what you see right below there are the 4 of our top priorities. And you'll see that public safety is at the top. So as a city, when we take a look at new initiatives, plans, programs, one of the first questions that we ask ourselves is, does it align with our mission and does it align with our priorities? And really that's where we spend the majority of our focus area, is making sure that our work aligns with everything that you see here on the screen.
And I'll just touch on something that really drives the work that we do here in Highland Park with the police department. So it's known as the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police and NAACP 10 Shared Principles of Law Enforcement. And just to give you just a quick background on it, in about 2015, after the Ferguson incident, the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police and the Illinois State Conference of the NAACP kind of started talking about what we could do better and how we could work together better on solving the issues of violence and working with our different communities of color. And so they had I wasn't part of those conversations at the time, I wish I was, but they talked for about 3 or 4 years about what was really important in law enforcement and what we really should be focusing on. And what's really unique about it is you've got a civil rights group and a statewide law enforcement organization that came together and came up with these 10 kind of concepts, 10 ideas of what we should be doing in law enforcement that would make everybody feel fairly treated, safe, and that we'd be doing our jobs appropriately, equitably, and again, at the end of the day, we'd be keeping everybody safe, but in a really equitable way. So these 10 principles, they're not things that you would be surprised about. We value the life of every person. We treat every person with dignity and respect. So I mean, these things are inherent in what law enforcement should be, but what's really, I think, moving about this is it's a shared principle concept, meaning number 8, for example, is where our citizens are really, there's some onus on our citizens to gain a better understanding of what we do and how we do it. so that maybe when they do see something either on the news or they hear about something, rather than maybe relying on what we've seen in the movies or TV, you have a little bit better of appreciation about what we really can do realistically or what we can't. And so by you all being here tonight, you are doing number 8, and we can't thank you enough, because what that does for our officers work on these all the time. As a matter of fact, in 2018, we were the first police department in the state of Illinois to endorse these, to say, this is who we are. Every one of our officers signed off on them, said, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to live up to. I subscribe to all of this. And we were the first in the state to do it. Now there are about 300 or 400 other departments that have followed us. So for our officers who are working to do this every day, and to do all these things that are listed here, to have you all here as part of, again, it's a shared kind of public safety concept, it means a lot to us. And that's why I just want to add this too, before I move it on. When we hear about your stories, people who have victimized your homes, we take it personally. I mean, we really, really do. When we respond to those calls, when I read about them at night or the next morning, I mean, it's gut-wrenching for us too, because our job is to make sure that we're keeping you all safe, that you feel safe. We want to keep Highland Park, as you all said, a phenomenal, wonderful community. So it's gut-wrenching to us when we have a burglary or a business is burglarized, or because we know how that feels. Being a victim doesn't go away. I mean, you feel that for years and years and years. I can just share, my father was a police officer, and in 1977, he ended up responding to an armed robbery. He exchanged himself for a hostage. He was ultimately shot in the head. He lived for a number of years after that. I was fortunate, but that never goes away. I mean, I think about him all the time. The date comes up, July 12th. I mean, when you're victimized, it leaves an indelible mark. So we take it very, very personally when somebody impacts your life that way. And so we work very hard to make sure it doesn't happen, and when it does happen, to try to make it right. And then we will get to, especially about the communications piece, there's sometimes, unfortunately, with the way laws are set up and FOIA and different things, we can only put out so much information. There are privacy. So it is policing is a very tough position to be in. We want to give as much information as we can. Sometimes we can't. We know it would help if we could, but we can't. So we'll get into all of that. But 10 shared principles drive everything we do. I urge you, we have them on our website, and certainly that's what our officers work to do every day. So let me move the slide. And then training. I guess I can just turn over to you to do training.
Could you try again?
No, sir. Technology. No, not me.
I think that we're really one of the best trained departments around. We invest heavily in training. It starts when an officer goes to how's that, okay? To the police academy. They go off to the police academy when they're hired for about 3.5 months. So full-time in the academy getting trained, 400 some hours of training. Then when they graduate, they come to the police department and they get another 3.5, 4 months of training in what we call our field training program, where specially trained field training officers take them through a whole host of steps, and they can only advance if they're meeting the grade in each step. And then as they progress through, it's an ever-increasing workload. It transitions from the FTO doing the work to the probationary officer doing the work. And once they pass all that, then they'll get onto the street. Once you're on the street, there is a whole host of mandated ongoing training. There's a board called the Illinois Law Enforcement Trainings and Standards Board, or ILETSB for short, that keeps track to make sure we meet the mandates. As a matter of fact, the representative came by the police department today to sit down with us and pulled up our roster and looked through the whole log, and good. And so we got 100%, everybody was in compliance with the state mandates, and they're increasing, by the way. More and more mandates are coming out. Safety Act has a whole host of training requirements, like scenario-based training and so forth. So ongoing training. Then we have officers that get involved and start to specialize as they get some experience, and they will go on to do things like become police beat coordinators and might get some mediation training through that. We're all working on what's called critical incident, CIT, critical incident team training to help respond to somebody that's in a mental health crisis. So that's a 40-hour class. When somebody becomes a detective, they have to get a certification called lead homicide investigator if they're going to investigate a homicide case. We have an officer on patrol that is certified in drug recognition expert. That's a really elaborate process where you have to get hands-on supervised experience and real cases before you can get the certification and do that. So you can have somebody that's trained really well in DUI enforcement and detection, and then that can take it to the next level for that. Medical response training is important to us, and I can go on and on, so et cetera, et cetera. Just kind of a very broad overview of the training that's available to our staff, and then our goal is to just keep getting better and provide the best possible service that we can and learn more and more each year.
Thank you. Okay, and so we've talked about a little bit, and again, the Police Beat Coordinator Program was something that we started in roughly, was it 2018-ish, I think, started it in 2018, really wanted to personalize law enforcement as much as we could. We, again, understand somebody comes to your door, we're in a uniform, we're taking, maybe it's one of the worst days in your life. You don't know us, we don't know you. We really want to connect with our community, and so we went through a really elaborate process of identifying officers who were strong in communication, really wanted to connect with a specific geographical area in our community, had good mediation skills, could deal with quality of life issues. And so we have in our town 5 geographic beats. So 5 beats, so you live in a specific beat, okay? And so each day, at least one officer, mostly one officer, will be assigned to your beat to handle the calls that are occurring within that beat. Of course, if that officer's down on a call, somebody else will come and help. But what we really see in law enforcement, what I've seen a lot in my time is, especially with like a recurring neighborhood problem or recurring issue, you'll get Officer A who's working Monday, they'll deal with it the best they can, and then they'll leave. They may write a report, or maybe there isn't a report, there's just maybe information to be shared, and then they may go off on days off. And then the next officer might come on and come there, and I think the expectations of our residents, which I would have too, is, well, how come you don't know this, you know? Well, it's because we have a lot going on, and different officers are working in different beats. So one of the ways we really wanted to try to resolve that is to find an officer, one officer, for each beat that would be their beat all the time. So the way we traditionally have done it, a lot of departments do, you might work this beat one day, come in the next day, be over here, come in and be over here, so you kind of move around. And that doesn't lend itself to developing relationships, of course, right? Because you're working different beats, and you're not really getting to know maybe particular people in that beat or businesses in that beat. So we've developed this program where we now have one of these officers is assigned to that beat. That is they're quarterbacking all the activities in that beat. So other officers that are coming through, maybe working on days off, they're the ones that are really trying to identify the neighborhood problems, work closely with businesses. They're kind of the face of the beat, and then they work with the other officers to make sure there's continuity to the extent we can. So that's kind of where the program kind of came from, but I will let Sergeant Gallagher step up, who is our current supervisor of that program, and just give you a little bit more insight, and then of course we'll meet the PBCs that are here tonight so you can at least see, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Chief. So as the Chief mentioned, we're broken up into 5 geographical areas. We have most of our police beat coordinators here tonight, and we've seen the program work really well. People get to know the people in their neighborhood better. We have a lot of people here from Beat 93 and some people here from Beat 92, so we'll introduce you to the police beat coordinators here in a little bit. And so we'll just go through some of the things that we do as a team. I'm going to go one forward. So we do National Night Out, the pencil school. When the kids go back to school, we do Pencil Day where we go out and meet the kids. We did dodgeball at a couple of schools.
We lost badly too, by the way.
They're good. They're athletic. Coffee with a Cop, which is a program where we set up a date where we'll just meet with the residents at a local, pretty traditionally been using McDonald's or Starbucks. It's an opportunity for residents to come out, meet with the police officers. It's very enjoyable for us to meet our residents when it's not the worst day of their lives. So we heard some stories here, and like the Chief said, that's not how we enjoy meeting you. We take the work very seriously, but we really enjoy meeting people in settings like this and Coffee with a Cop and outings like that where it's much more enjoyable. So we most recently, I think there's a slide on it coming up, we did a Faith in Blue Here we go here, where we partner with our religious institutions. We did a food drive a couple weekends ago for Moraine Township, which was very successful. Time of year where people in need are really needing food, so that was a great success. And you can read through some of the other things. So it's a great program, COVID. We had a little bit of a downtime with COVID, and now we're ramping it back up. So anybody that's in the room tonight, please don't leave without knowing who your Police Beat coordinator is. This doesn't, an emergency is always going to be 911, but if it's something simple, we had a simple one where the neighbor was putting their garbage out on an area that bothered their other neighbor, and they got us involved, and the neighbors are really good friends now. We've been very, very productive. We're proud of the program, but if you guys could for sure make sure that you know who your Police Beat coordinator is tonight. Almost all of them are here. One of our officers, like Deputy Chief mentioned, she's down in Florida getting some additional training, so she's our only one that's not here today. So very proud of the program.
Yeah, so I'll add to that. So the quality of life issues, we all have them. We all have neighbors. Sometimes we don't want to upset our neighbors and interact with them in a negative way, but, those little things like garbage cans being out or barking dogs or things like that. I mean, again, quality of life issues are important to us. Crime is, of course, very important to us, but these quality of life issues are what make our community really special when we can work through those, and our PBCs are phenomenal at doing that, kind of having those conversations with the neighbors, being that mediator, and we've been very, very successful. I can think of a number of them where we've actually brought people in and mediated and sat down and had them talk about things that have been going on for years, a shared driveway issue, for instance, things like that. So those things are important to us as well. And again, just to show the level of commitment of the folks that have stepped up to do this, they don't get any extra pay, they get a lot of extra work. I mean, so our other officers, of course, are very happy to say, hey, this is going on in your beat, I want to let you know about this, and of course, then they end up, sinking their teeth into it. And I think it was over the summer, maybe before the summer, one of them suggested that we take some pride and ownership in our community and do a community clean at the Cloverleaf at Central and 41. It was really looking kind of nasty and dirty and dingy, and so our PBCs organized kind of a community clean to really kind of, again, showcase what a wonderful community we have, and it looked great. Starting to get there again. People throw their stuff out, unfortunately, but those are the kind of things that the group does. And so just before we move on, I certainly would let each one of them maybe just say something about their beat or who they are so you know who they are.
Once again, I'm Matt Bobeck. I've been a police officer with the City of Highland Park now for about 8 years. I am in charge of Beat 90, which pretty much runs everything east of Route 41 all the way to Lakefront and everything north of Deerfield Road all the way to Old Elm, including Fort Sheridan. Enjoy working in partnership with everybody in my zone, outside my zone as well. Like the Chief said, we've handled numerous neighbor disputes. We also work with the Traffic Enforcement Division and conduct extra patrols on the streets to make sure everybody's safe. We do school checks within my zone with Wayne Thomas, Northwoods Elementary, and the high school, so we work in partnership with them as well.
My name is Pavel Ganea, and I'm the beat coordinator for Beat 91. That's the most known for downtown area and all the lakefront, so essentially anywhere from Vine down to Roger Williams and east of Green Bay Road. So that's the area that I work every day that I work, as well as the other officers. We're assigned to that area every day. And one of the nice things is that I tell people is that because we work that area every day, we really know what is quote-unquote normal for that area. Are there cars that are normally parked here? Are there cars that are not normally parked here? We're able to see those patterns because we're there so often. We see the same people walking around, be able to say hi to them and really kind of see those patterns to really help. If there is something that kind of looks out of place, we're able to automatically check on that and know, because I know that at 3 a.m. this car is usually not here, or, oh, I know that car, that's the neighbor's car, they always park here. So I think that's one of the biggest upsides of having officers in the same beat. You get to know the area, know people, and know those patterns.
Ginger is not here. She's the one that's down in Florida, but she's, here, let me just say this so they know, so it's on the record. So Ginger Stokes is our PBC for Beat 92, which you can see there is southeast end of town, essentially, is where she patrols.
I'm Amber Kmishke. I am newly assigned to be the Beat 93 coordinator, as in the last week. So am new to the position. However, I've taken it on to be in Beat 93 when I work my night shift for over the past year. So I'm very familiar with the area, familiar with the residents so far. And a lot of you live in 93, everybody off the half-day corridor. So be sure to get my card before you go. 93 is anything north of Deerfield and west of 41 to the western and northern limits of town. So definitely, I understand all the residential burglaries and everything that's kind of plagued that area, and so we are doing things to address that for you guys.
Officer Nate Stykes also off today, but he works on Beat 94, so that's the southwestern part of town.
Hi, I'm Jackie White. I'm kind of all over. I'm kind of a fill-in. I've been here almost 19 years now. So some of the officers work nights and some of us work days. So with my position, I can kind of fill in. If it's a night officer, I can, kind of follow up on some work that might need to be done during the day, or if they're on vacation or not around. So I pretty much kind of get in wherever I fit in and try and help out the team.
Yeah, Jackie's our utility player, and she knows all beats and is getting to know everybody in town, but again, it speaks to that continuity. So we wanted to make sure we had people in place that even when our PBCs were gone, because they get vacation and time off as well, that we filled in those gaps. And so Jackie's been doing that and been doing a phenomenal job. And then Officer Reyes Montemeyer.
Hi, I'm Officer Reyes Montemeyer. I'm also one of the cover officers. So anytime there's a vacancy, somebody's on vacation or something like that, I kind of step in along with Jackie White. I also handles a lot of the PSA videos. You probably see them on social media, and I really love doing that kind of work. Oftentimes when I have these little meetings, I like to remind people, if you guys are interested in participating in any of those videos, we really love volunteers, so get a hold of me, and I promise I'll get you in. All right? Thank you.
Yeah, so again, to the point we talked about earlier, communication and how we try to get out information to our public. You guys can sit down, thank you. Clearly in today's day and age, video, social media, those things are reaching people at an extraordinary level. And so we try to put together meaningful videos. We have our 9 p.m. routine at night to make sure we lock our car doors and just things like that. And so Officer Montemeyer has done some really, really great work on that, and we are always looking for people to be extras. If you haven't seen from a couple years ago, our lip sync video, he did all the work on that. It was, if you have not seen it, I urge you to go to YouTube and look up Highland Park lip sync video. Phenomenal job. To the theme "I'll Be There From You" from Friends. It's phenomenal, but we had some residents in there help us along with that too. So definitely always looking for people to help us out there to get the word out. And then just wanted to give you a little bit of a kind of background on our investigations division. We've got Commander Jerry Cameron here, who can just take you through a couple of the highlights for the department. Yeah, based up there, you'll do all right. He's only been here 43 years, so I think he'll be all right. Right there's fine, sir. Let me get out of your way.
Not an eloquent speaker like some of the other folks in the room. I have a sergeant that I work with, heading up the investigations unit on our police department. We have 5 adult investigators in our adult section and 3 investigators in the youth section. Our SROs, the high school SRO and the grammar school resource officer, and the juvenile officer. We also partner, as you might imagine, a case that we would take just drains resources instantaneously. So we partner with Lake County Major Crimes Task Force. I'm proud to say that 2 of our detectives have been supervisors on that task force. So at a serious crime where we have a 7 or 8 person team from within Highland Park, with that resource and being a contributing agency to that, we can have a resource of 50 detectives. We also partner with NORTAF, Northern Illinois. It's a burglary task force. Sergeant Gallagher, a man who wears many hats, is also one of the lead supervisors on NORTAF's burglary task force, and we have an investigator with that as well. On some of the burglary cases that we investigate, Detective DiCristofaro is one of our burglary suspects.
Oh,
Specialists.
We got him.
There's several different organizations locally and internationally. So we have access to pawn shop databases, so we can look for materials that have been, proceeds that have been pawned. And we also network with both state and federal agencies on developing information when we're investigating identity thefts. So burglaries and identity thefts and victimization are some of the largest we get a lot of them, okay, easily spoken. And they take a lot of time. I'm not shocked when a burglary investigation might finally come to an end or be adjudicated, and it's 2 years after the event. Same with identity crime. We have to get subpoenas out for documents. We could talk for hours just on the specifics of any one type of an investigation, but that's our unit in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Enzo, just real quick, anything as far as tips-wise that would help you facilitate, an investigation? I know serial numbers probably would, or anything like that that you can share with people that, from your perspective as an investigator.
I would say on valuable items, it's always key to have photographs of actual items. Serial numbers are very important so that when we look things up, we locate things, and sometimes we do at pawn shops, we'd be able to walk in and say, this is the item we're recovering and this is why. It's a little more difficult, obviously, with a model type. I could just walk in and just say, I got to pick this up. So very detailed photographs of everything, safes, serial numbers, and photographs of them. This way, if something does happen, you can just hand over all these documents to have us. That's what helps us get on the move a lot quicker. And that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, and we'll continue to talk about it, we hate to talk about the if, but it is a reality that we live in, and we'll show you some stats and some of our crime stats. And again, I've talked closely with my colleagues throughout the state, and not that there's any solace in this, but we're not alone. As we all know, it's unfortunately just kind of where we're at right now in our country, and it's frustrating to law enforcement, and certainly I know it's frustrating to our residents. I talk to my friends and family from other communities that I have in other communities, and they're feeling the same thing. And there's no solace in it, but we do need to be, as you're here tonight, we need to be as prepared as we can be to put you in the best position should something happen to you. And so to Detective DiCristofaro's point, it does help us, and it helps you get some, potentially get some of your belongings back, because if you're able to identify them with the pawn system the way it is, we can, pretty readily go in. There's even a computerized system and put blue brooch, blue ring, and we can really find things. And these people do go, and that's how they make their money. They steal from you, and then they go to a pawn shop generally, or they'll put it online. But we've also had a lot of good luck online. These cases take a lot, but I'll share. It was a couple of years ago, but one of our stores was burglarized, and they stole a whole bunch of biking stuff. But our detectives stayed on it. They were able to, online on eBay, find the merchandise and really be able to track back a suspect. And ultimately, they recovered probably about, I'd say 95% of it for the store. So our detective, and I'm telling you, this is not the norm for a lot of communities, but our detective spent not only the time working to catch the suspect, right? That's a big part of the investigation. We're able to do that, but recognizing how the victim feels and trying to make that victim whole, they continued on and went on eBay and found every one or almost every one of those items that was already sold and got them back, because that's what happens with eBay if you buy sold merchandise. But even then, we felt bad for the people that spent the money, so they made sure that they got reimbursed from eBay. So, we really do dig in, but it was helpful because we had really specific information on the stuff that was stolen. So really just put you in a better position. Okay. So here we are. We're going to talk about this a little bit, just kind of a trend over the last couple of years, give you a little bit of some data and some information.
It's hard to see, but look at the detail.
Yeah, a little small. I don't want to read off every specific stat on here, but what you see with this graphic up here is from 2019 to present, what our stats are on some select crimes, the more serious stuff. I know burglary is a concern. Many of you are here tonight, so residential burglary is the third one on the left. So you can see in 2019, we had 16 residential burglaries. 2020 dropped down to 7. So we believe, don't know for certain, but 2020, everybody was home, right? Stay-at-home order made it a little bit harder for burglars to go in when you're not home. Then everybody went back out, so it jumped up a little bit to 16 in 2021, and so far 2022, we're at 14. But you can see of the various stats that are up here, from thefts to suicidal persons and stolen vehicles, that over the last 3.5 years, there's some fluctuation, but not serious spikes, in each category relatively. So kind of gives you an overview of that. Does anybody, rather than me just talk about stats that can get really boring, does anybody see something up there that they have a specific question about that maybe I can answer? Yes, sir. Sure. The difference between burglary, robbery, and theft. Okay. How many times do you hear I got robbed, right? But somebody's talking about their house where they weren't home and something was taken. So a robbery is when something is taken by force or threat of force. So that's an in-person interaction typically with the offender. A burglary is where somebody unlawfully enters with the intent to commit a felony, so another crime, or a theft therein. Somebody doesn't have to be present for that. And then a theft can be something stolen just in general. It could be a retail theft from a store. It could be a bicycle stolen from the train station. Just you leave your phone laying around. There'd be theft of lost or mislaid property if you lost it and somebody kept your phone. So hopefully that explains it for you.
Okay, so, we're data-driven. That's what we do. We look at numbers all the time, and, we certainly look in when we look in areas, we try to drive our either enforcement or our patrol or our efforts, through data. We don't want to just randomly be out there driving around. Research has shown just a squad car driving around, while it does feel good when you see it, and it does, it makes me feel good when I see one because I feel like you're in the area, doesn't have a huge detrimental impact on crime. It just doesn't. Research has shown that. So we do look at our numbers, we look at our geography, we see where things are hitting. We talk to our partner agencies, again, through NORTAF, which is a really good resource. That's the group that Sergeant Gallagher's on, and they follow burglars, and they track burglars, and they look for patterns throughout communities. So we're not just working in isolation in Highland Park, because these people are all mobile. They're not all living in Highland Park and committing crimes in Highland Park. They're coming into Highland Park, and they're coming into other communities. And believe it or not, I can share with you that we've had an incident happen in Lake Forest, and we get wind of that, and an hour later it's now here, and then it moves. They don't even do just one and go home. It's like they are very brazen, and they're moving around and doing what they can. But if you look at the numbers, and it gives me a little solace, again, we take everyone personally. One is too many, but when I look at the numbers, I'd be even much more concerned if we went from 12 to 70 burglaries, right? And that's kind of how I feel when I watch TV. I just do. I feel like, oh my gosh, the world's on fire. And again, if it hits your home, it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 100. It's your house, and so we definitely feel for that. But when we try to put it in perspective and again, kind of drive our efforts around where it's happening, and we try to use data. And there's a portal, which we'll talk about shortly, and I know Director Reynolds can talk about stats a little bit too. But it's just it was a good slide for me to see, because I do feel like I said, when I watch the news, I talk to my family members, I feel like, oh my gosh, it's like the end of times, it's the worst it's ever been. It's not great, and again, 1 too many for us. We prefer 0.0 on every one of those, but it's the world, unfortunately, we do live in. Okay, so I think our PBCs, we're going to kind of address just a little bit of a couple public safety recommendations, just again, things to think about as you're going about your business.
So I'm just going to touch on ruse burglaries. That's something that we've seen here in Highland Park and across Chicagoland area lately. It's a little bit different than burglary, so we'll have officers touch on that as well. But what is a ruse burglary? So a lot of times it usually happens, it's a group of people, usually at least 2 or 3 individuals, and they'll come to your house, and what their main point, what they're trying to do is distract you. So there'll be 2 or 3 people, they say, hey, I work for the city, or I work for one of the gas companies, I need to check your water pressure. And they'll usually try to get you to go downstairs to the basement and say, hey, I'm here, I have a work order, I have to go downstairs, check the water pressure. So and you'll say, okay, they look pretty official. A lot of times they'll have a vest, they'll have badges that appears to be a work badge or something like that. A lot of times they'll be driving a pickup truck. So you'll say, okay, it looks like somebody coming from ComEd, one of the water companies, I'll let them in. So you let them in, you go downstairs. A lot of times they communicate via walkie-talkies, just like this one, the radios, with their counterparts, and they say, a lot of times it's not in English, they'll be speaking a different language, so you might not be able to understand what they're saying, and they'll say to their partners, okay, I'm downstairs, you can go in either through the front door that's already been open because you're downstairs, or they'll go around the back. And what they'll do is then they'll commit the burglary, going to the bedroom, ransacking that, going through closets, looking for jewelry, money, any valuables that they can take to then, to use either at pawn shops or just to spend the money. So what can we do to prevent becoming a victim of a ruse burglary? If anybody ever comes to your house, first of all, if they're unexpected, like if you're not expecting the city to come, if you're not expecting ComEd, the water company to come, or anybody to come, first thing you do, if you're talking with someone, I recommend stepping outside. Don't let them inside your house. If you don't know who they are, that's the first thing. Second thing, ask them for identification. Ask them for a badge. Ask them for their ID. Okay? If somebody comes and if they're really from ComEd, they'll say, hey, yeah, no problem. But most importantly, if you're really still concerned about it, just call us. Say, you know what? Let me just verify, or let me call the city, and let's just make sure that city is actually inspecting the water lines or checking in the area. If it's a real, somebody that's really working and doing that work, they'll have no problem waiting an extra couple minutes for you to verify. But they usually say, no, we got to do this quick, because they don't want you to think too much. They just want you to let them in, so that you go downstairs, somebody else goes around the back, and before you know it, a lot of times within a couple minutes, they'll go through all the bedrooms, and before you know it, they're out and they're gone. Unfortunately, we've had a couple of these. It happens all across Chicagoland, all across the North Shore, NORTAF, one of the task force that we have. They work to track these criminals and try to catch them and get these items back. But I would say the biggest thing you can do is just really slow down and say, don't let them into your house right away. Just take that time, take the couple minutes, ask them for their information, and if you're concerned, call us. We get calls all the time. Somebody saying, oh, I don't know who this is. Sometimes, it ends up being a legit contractor that just didn't call or forgot to call and say, hey, I'll be there. But if it is, a criminal, and they say, hey, I'm calling the police, they're not going to stick around for us. They're going to wait. They're going to leave. They're going to get out of the area because they don't want to get caught. So they want you to act quickly. So never let them into your house. Give it some time. Say, hey, we're going to wait. I'm going to call. I need your ID. And that's fine. I mean, I've been on a call where somebody said, I don't think you're the real police. And I was dressed just like I am right now with the squad car parked in front. And they said, you know what, I don't know that you're the real police. I said, okay, not a problem. You can call 911 or call the non-emergency number and ask them. And then once you feel comfortable, I'll wait here and you can call me back and I'll take the report. That's happened to me, so that's completely fine, right? We want everybody to feel comfortable, and if somebody's not sure, we'd rather take a couple minutes, verify, and then go along with that. Detective Christopher, anything else to add to that? I know you've been taking a lead on a lot of these.
You got it. You nailed it. All right. Yeah, and so along those lines, if you do have, and this is hard, I mean, because I do the same thing, but, they're in and out in 2 minutes, and they go right to your dresser drawer and top of your dresser, and of course, just out of convenience, we put our grandmother's rings, because we wear them, or we keep. So if you can, try to make it a little more difficult, at least for these folks, by putting your valuables and especially your prized possessions in a little bit different of a spot. I mean, when we go to the beach, what do we all do? We put our wallets in our shoe, or, I mean, does everybody not know that that's where they're at? I mean, let's be honest. So unfortunately, the same kind of premise works for these folks. They know, and they know because it's convenient. You throw it on top of your dresser or you throw it in your sock drawer, and that's right where they go. And it is, again, that's probably one of the most heartbreaking things for us. Great-grandma's ring, these things that you can never get back again, and it just really makes you angry at these people that they just don't care and that they hurt people that way. So go ahead. No worries.
Burglary or theft, have you found, I know probably in the past not so much, but more recently, maybe within the past couple of years, that these criminals are armed with weapons?
That's a good question, very good question. I would say our experience here has not matched that, but I am aware certainly of communities in our area and throughout, the northern Illinois, where we've seen ring camera video where they're like doing a car burglary at 2 a.m. and they've got a gun. They didn't interact with anybody, but if they had. So I would say to answer your question, you probably have to go on the premise that people more likely than not lately seem to be going to being armed. So haven't had that experience, here per se. We did have on the Highway 41, we had a road rage incident, which you probably saw, where somebody did, shoot a gun. And so it seems like you are hearing about that definitely more and more. So again, and anytime you hear gun violence, we all get our antenna up. I would say that unless anybody can correct me, I have not read or heard anything locally that we've seen that. You got something to add?
Yeah, we haven't seen that locally, and, historically, your quote-unquote traditional burglar knows that if they commit that offense while they're armed with a gun and they get caught, the punishment is much more severe. So it used to be a deterrent. So, your typical roost burglars aren't armed. They're secretive, they're sneaky, they're tricky, but they want to get out, and that's their very narrow wheelhouse. So, just to reiterate, yeah, but not locally. I just wanted to kind of make that point about the consequences. Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Research and talking with friends and people, and it seems as though, and you touched on this point, that they really go for the safes that are located in the home. How do they know where these safes are? For some people, they might keep them in their home office or their basement or their bedroom or what have you. How do they know? Or behind the wall, how do they know this?
So, without anybody raising their hands, I would venture to say that everybody that came here tonight that was the victim of a burglary had their master bedroom targeted. That's the first place that they go, and it kind of touches on what Chief was saying. So a lot of times it's luck of the draw, right? They're going to go right to the bedroom. The goal is to get in and get out quick. So it's pretty rare that burglars are going to take a lot of time in the house. The longer they're there, the more chance there is of getting caught. So yeah, they might get lucky there's a safe. Yes, there's cases where, it could have been a bad contractor or somebody had the opportunity to have been in the house and knows specifically and saw it. But believe it or not, that's more rare. We do explore those options. But the best advice on that is out of the master bedroom. First place they go. So be a little bit more creative, take the extra steps, especially for the stuff that you're not using on a daily basis that has value. If it is the grandmother's ring that you want to hide and you only look at it so-and-so, put it somewhere that's much more difficult to find.
And we can, if you want specific. Yep, sorry. If you want specific recommendations, we can talk offline after the meeting as far as that goes. I just wanted to talk about the home invasion. We saw the stats up there. We don't have any home invasions. So that's someone coming into your house while you're home with a weapon. The people that victimized you folks made sure that you weren't home, whether that be numerous ways they did that. Watching, knocking on the door. If someone comes to your door and says, they seem really shady, I lost my dog, call us. Like Officer Gane has said, we'd rather come out there and you don't even have a dog, you don't even live around here. That's a diversion that they might use. So they made sure that no one was home because, as Deputy Chief mentioned, if they get caught with a gun breaking into your house as a Class X felony, they're going to jail for a long time.
sorry. And, oh, go ahead.
I would take issue with something said about the Lou's burglary, about going outside to talk to them. We've had instances where somebody would come to the door or ring the bell. We don't open the door. We talk through the door. We have an intercom that allows us, but we can speak loudly enough. So I don't think it's
I think it's a good point. And so I think if, like for me, I may be more comfortable doing it. It has to be a comfort level. If I had, right, for you, maybe not. And if you've got technology to speak through the door, that's preferable. Yeah, never open the door. I think the message we're trying to send is, unfortunately, it's more preferable to, once they're in, they're in. And I think that's the message we're trying to drive, yeah. Yeah, depending on who you are, for sure. I would also just, in my former community where I worked before I came here, we had a very unique presentation a couple years in a row, and I wish, I would like to get it here, but I don't think they're doing it anymore. But Chicago Police, as part of some formerly released burglars, would do a presentation where the burglars would come and tell you what they think, why they did what they did, what they look for. I mean, it was, even for a law enforcement officer after 25 years, when I'm listening to these, there was like 3, they'd have a panel, and the room was packed. I mean, we had like 60 people there. It was interesting to hear what they said. I mean, things like they don't care about a dog, does nothing to them. Just, these are all gentlemen who were in jail for burglary, and then as part of their release, they had to go and do public service, and so they would do this program. They don't care about a dog. What they do say, one of the biggest things for them is people that leave their windows and doors open so they can see in the house is what they really love, because they can see your iPad, they can see things. So believe it or not, I've changed our at nighttime, I hate to do it, but we shut down a little bit just because that really resonated with me. They said when people leave all their doors and windows open and they can look in, then they know it's worth getting in there. And you don't want to live it's a balance. Everything we're talking about tonight is a balance. Everything's a balance and a calculated risk and decisions we have to make to live freely and to enjoy our lives, but also to try not to be victimized. But it was a very eye-opening experience. We had it a couple times. Like I said, I wish we could get it here because it's really, again, regardless of what they did, to hear them be candid about what they looked for and how they operate, it was like eye-opening for us. So, all right, sorry, Jackie?
So vehicle burglaries, especially at nighttime, you want to get into a routine, and we did a public service video on it, but basically you want to make sure you're locking the vehicle. They tend to go for the low-hanging fruit. If the vehicle's open and accessible, it doesn't even have to be a fancy vehicle. It's all about accessibility. They'll pull on the door handle and then they'll take whatever is there. So number 1, I would lock the vehicle. Number 2, I would also either take the valuables inside or put them somewhere in the vehicle where they're not visible. To extend the 9 p.m. routine, I would do that during the day. I'd do it during the day as well. We don't see a lot of actual like smash and grabs where they're actually breaking into the vehicle. So a lot of times just locking the vehicle is a deterrent, but do not put the valuables where they can see them. And take the fob with you, because if you leave it in the car, then it's open. As soon as they get close enough to it, they can open the car. And I've taken a vehicle theft where a person was downtown, enjoying, a visit at the salon, and then they come back and their car is gone. Well, they left the fob in the car. So leaving it unsecure is huge. Always have the key with you. Always remove the valuables, or at least have them where no one can see them.
In your car, most people have garage door openers in your car. So when you leave your car unlocked, you're leaving your house unlocked. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Well, the point of them going after catalytic converters. So we have a garage, but those that don't, they're at risk.
Yeah, for sure. And to that point, I would say, honestly, I mean, it sounds like common sense, but people just get into their world, and we all do, and it's a double-edged sword for us, too. We want everybody to feel safe, and, I certainly want you to walk around town, I want my family, we all want to walk around town feeling safe, but the double-edged sword is then sometimes you might leave yourself exposed. So it is such a double-edged sword. So what I always say, and I tell my kids, and I tell my wife, and we talk about it in the police department, You can live in the green, where, you're really not paying attention to anything, life is great, and you're kind of going along your world. The yellow, which you're a little bit more kind of paying attention, but you're not like paranoid, or the red, where something's really going on and you really have to be concerned. We, in law enforcement, we live in the yellow, like, all the time. I can tell you, even when I'm off duty, I'm at a mall, I mean, it's unfortunately, with what we see and what we do, it's just kind of where you are all the time. It's good in certain respects, because then we're always looking around and we're generally trying to be a little safe, but it's also not maybe great to live that way. But I would say for you all, and it depends on the circumstances. So again, there's no panacea. There's nothing that's going to fix every potential circumstance or prevent anybody from being victimized. We can put ourselves to be in the best possible position, and again, we have to do what's comfortable for us. But living in the yellow a little bit, isn't going to hurt when you're out and about. Pay attention to your surroundings. And I tell my kids this: if you think something's wrong, I think a lot of us try to be respectful people. And so, we're not just, we hear like a bang, we're not sure what that is, but we don't want to just run away. But I've told my kids, just, if you hear something, don't feel right, just go, and we'll figure it out later. And I think we have to all be that way a little bit. Again, you don't want to be borderline in the red all the time. That's not healthy, but there is a balance, and I think we all would do a little bit better to kind of find that balance. Go ahead.
I wanted to talk to you about the chart that you have. If I'm correct, the burglaries were 16 in 2021 and 14 in 2022.
Let me look.
Residential burglaries?
Yes.
Okay, it seems to me that there's a disproportional amount in the area west of 41, just a little south of the bridge, to the west Tennyson and that area, and to the north, right along the border of Highland Park.
Yes.
Now, why do we have more in this area than the rest of Highland Park? What is happening, and who do you think the perpetrators are, and how are they, choosing this particular area?
All very good questions. I don't know that I can answer who. I don't even know if we can answer exactly why. I would support exactly what you said, though. Our data supports that in that general vicinity, especially over the last whatever period, couple of years, there seems to be a disproportionate number. I don't think we can answer. Maybe Nortaf, or my Nortaf expert, has some insight from the burglary side.
So, great question. There's all different burglary trends that are going around. We have a couple specific to Highland Park. The one in your case, I would say it's simply, you live near 22 and 41, right? If you're coming, and then 94. So it's simply an easy egress and an easy way to get out. That's the simple, as simple as it comes. I can tell you, we can talk a little bit more specific with regards to who we believe could possibly be responsible for your group. Working with our detective division, I'm emailing a detective from the Nashville, Tennessee area, in other areas where we're starting to make some progress. So, as you know, Detective Chris Farrell is working extremely hard on a daily basis on the case, and as well as he's got other partners in the unit. So I think it's just basically the idea that it's a major highway and major crossroad, and it's easy in and easy out.
Okay. Somebody's going to talk about just best practices when you're out of town.
Okay, so we obviously don't expect you to stay home at all times, but we do have vacation watches. So if you're going to be out of town for an extended period of time, you can call into our non-emergency number and let our dispatch center know, and you can put a vacation watch on your home. So that allows us to know that you're not here. We'll do additional checks at night. Usually we'll get something as a night shift officer that tells us to go by the house, check it out, make sure, things are okay there. In addition to that, don't have a lot of packages sitting outside, anything that may give an illusion that you're not there, even if, you're only away for the day. Along with that, when you're going to be gone for an extended period of time, you can set your lights on timers so you don't have a pitch black house, because a pitch black house means more likely nobody's there. So I know that I do that at my home where I work overnight, so I'm not home at night, but it gives the illusion that I am because I have lights on in various rooms on various days at various times. So you can, there's definitely the technology out there to kind of give the illusion that you're there even if you're not. And then it doesn't matter if you're going out to walk the dog, you're going down the street for dinner for an hour. If you have an alarm system, set it. Because you have that for a reason, you pay for it for a reason. So even if you're just going for a walk around the neighborhood to walk the dog, I've been on numerous residential burglary calls where that's all it took. They were out for an hour to run, downtown to have dinner, and they come back and the back window's smashed in. So, and they didn't set the alarm because they figured they were only going to be gone for a short period of time. So if you have the resources available to you to have an alarm system, have lights on timers, all of that, take advantage of them every time that you leave the house.
Go back. Got it.
So in addition, obviously, majority of people in Highland Park do have some type of an alarm system, whether it's through ABT, Keith, Bulldog, or the other options that are available. Some of the other things we also ask is video system, to have some video surveillance. A lot of those alarm companies do offer that. In addition, there's numerous companies that have the doorbell surveillance. Those are tremendous assets for us and for you guys. You can set those up to give you activations if someone comes to your door. As Officer Ganeha said, having some type of contact with the individual that comes to your door, if they are a solicitor or if they are a roost burglary suspect, they are looking to see if you're at the home or not. With those types of devices now, you could be in California and get a Ring notification, and on your phone you can have a conversation from hundreds of miles away with that individual that can give the interpretation that you are inside the residence. I've had people just, they're on a ski trip and they hop on and they just say, hey, I'm currently on a work call. I'm not going to be able to come to the door. And they can monitor with their surveillance cameras, watch somebody go back into their vehicle, or if someone still stays on premise, they can call us. Non-emergency line will respond. Another thing you can do, tell a trusted neighbor. He is someone you trust. More or less whether or not it's having your mail picked up, to just not have mail stacked up at the door, giving people the illusion that you're, on vacation or not at the residence. I had a burglary that occurred where the neighbor was told, hey, we're going to be on a ski trip for 2 weeks. We're not going to be at the residence. We're not expecting anybody to be there. And there was actually an individual that came to the front door. The neighbor called us right away. We were able to get somebody over to the residence just because it's just an extra set of eyes. We're present, but having somebody right next door that can keep eyes on somebody or your residence, or making sure everything's intact and has your phone number, it helps us tremendously in that sense.
And I don't see that here. Is that supposed to be home here, or gone away, or?
So online, you can either call us too. I mean, we've had people that just call us, just say, hey, I'm going to be on, I don't need an officer to come to my house per se, but hey, I'm going to be out of town from this and this date, and I'd like to have some extra patrols. And what happens with that is we basically work 2 shifts here. We work 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and then 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So, if I'm working, let's say today, Amber's going to be coming in for me working nights, and then I'm coming in the next day. We do a great job with our supervisors with roll call every day that we do for 15 minutes before we start shift. We go through everything that's going down with the day, and they'll fill us in, hey, this resident's out of town, and we have a board, and basically one point of the night, they'll come out and they'll check on the house, make sure everything's good.
Yeah. No, not that, again, I've only been here 5 years, but I don't think we've really, and there are some communities where it's worked. I can tell you again, the community I came from, we had it in name, but I mean, and I'm sure there are communities where it works really well, but there's, if there's interest, we'd support it, but it's really going to, have to be driven by the community to be interested in that. So we would absolutely support that, because again, it supports our mission that we're all in it together. So absolutely. And then just to back up real quick, as long as people have free will, they're going to unfortunately try to take advantage of other people and commit crimes. And then our job, and our job collectively, is to try to put things in place to make it harder for them, if not impossible. One of the other things that we're looking to do that's currently in the budget for 2023 is a license plate reader system called Flock. And Flock is cameras strategically located at all the entry points of town to kind of catch license plates as they come in. And then for us, it's a wealth of information. If a burglary does happen, or not even a burglary, for instance, if an attempted child luring or something really serious happens and all we have is the color car, maybe 2 parts of the license plate, we can put it in, and as long as that car came in at some point into town, boom, we can really have a good suspect developed like immediately. Quite a few communities on the North Shore we've been working with, a group of 13, that are working to put this kind of network in throughout the region. So again, while we can't we can't prevent every crime, we can't make people not commit crimes or want to commit crimes. We can absolutely enhance our ability to prevent them and/or to respond to them. And then again, by working together, you all doing some of these things, some things may work for you, some things may not. There is no panacea, but you do what you can. I think we'll put ourselves in a better position. I think I saw your hand up. Sure.
What I've heard is that it's also good not to list anything on Facebook,
Okay, yeah, certainly. So actually, I'm going to come over so I can, so for people at home that are watching, so what you're saying is it's a good piece, that's okay. That's okay, we do too, I do too. So what you were saying, just make sure I've got it, that it's important for people to remember that, again, privacy on Facebook, listing things and be very sensitive, you're 100% right. Yeah. Don't listen, you're going away. Absolutely. That's a really good point. And with kids and different, they don't think maybe that, but to say I'm going on vacation, if you're going to go on vacation or you do go on vacation, you want to post those wonderful pictures, wait till you come home and post those pictures. Because if you are posting in real time and somebody does, that's a very good point. Excellent point. I saw another hand. Oh. So again, so good question. How often is your house checked on if you do a vacation watch? And the answer to that is it's going to be as their call load allows. So certainly I would say at the very least it'll be checked on overnight. But if the officers are aware of it and they're just driving around, what's good is if they're just driving around regular patrol, you know, if they're over maybe a couple blocks over, but they know that your house is, again, they can go by your house again. So having it on the radar is very helpful, but it's going to depend on call to call to call. Sometimes they're going to crashes or domestics and things like that. So it's hard to say for sure it's going to be every hour. It certainly won't be.
Now, where are you placing it? Like our neighborhood that has a lot of traffic, would you be willing to put one of those cameras near, you know?
So the way it works is you don't almost need to put it internally in town because what you're doing is putting on every entry point. So meaning, so let's say in your neighborhood, there was a burglary, and maybe the Ring doorbell caught a black car leaving, maybe even a black Jeep. Well, that black Jeep had to come in town at some point, either on 41 or on 22, so it would come through those cameras anyway, and we would get the license plate that way, so we'd be able to work back that way. So you don't need to put them on every block.
Can you clarify that we're not recording every car that's coming and going?
Yeah, so we're not recording every car that's coming and going.
Our particular neighborhood, which you know what it is, would you be willing to put one of those cameras?
But again, so that the way it works, this is almost like it rings the community. So putting it just in your neighborhood, that's not how the flock system works. It really is catching everything coming in and out of town. So that's not how the system works. So we can definitely talk about it because I don't want to. Okay.
So what's meant by strategic surveillance?
Strategic surveillance?
There was a very good program on NOVA recently. Basically went through different approaches and dismissing a lot of them. Identifying certain type groups that was, let's say, racially profiled, etc.
Oh, strategic surveillance. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the show.
They showed an image of somebody in a room with several screens, and they were obviously looking
Oh, yeah.
at several properties at once. Is that something that we could pay for ourselves? Is there that kind of system available?
So the question is there a strategic surveillance or surveillance that's an ability for, I guess, the city to watch specific properties? And I would...
Or a community like ours.
Yeah,
All the homeowners within that community say, this is something we would...
yeah, I don't think a municipality, we certainly don't have the staffing for that. There's just absolutely no way. There may be private companies, I'm not aware of one, no. But I'm certain that if, again, I'm not aware of the NOVA episode you're speaking about. Okay, but I'm sure that if they're talking about it, there are companies that are going to be able to do it.
Various databases are being used, but really to no avail. A lot of this is not really good for that. What is the thought about advising the post office and your mail and your newspaper delivery that you're going to be gone for 6 weeks? I mean, who knows where the holes are?
So again, a good question is advising the post office, and did you say neighbors? Or the newspaper. So certainly again, so you're talking about risk assessment. I don't know that we've had any experiences in Highland Park, but certainly nationally, I can remember people who have been compromised at one of those institutions and then led to maybe something nefarious happening. So it is certainly a consideration. And there again, the hard part about this conversation, there's no panacea. There's no, I wish we had one. And believe me, if we had an answer, say, do this and this will never happen. It's just not the reality that we live in. And I know we're getting close to 8 o'clock, and I know we've got a couple other things. So we will definitely get questions, but let me just keep popping them along. Reporting suspicious people, who's going to handle that, if anyone? Okay, real quick.
So just some general public safety information. We often get called to investigate suspicious vehicles or people. We want to make sure and remind people that it's behavior-based, not just race-based or ethnicity-based. We respond to time, place, situation. We get put in the middle of these types of calls, and it's not really aligning with the shared principles of public safety. So it has to be behavior-based, so please let us know what the behavior is you're concerned about, and we'll certainly respond and investigate it. We want to get the details of that. Again, time, place, situation, what are they doing? And often we get calls from refused complainants reporting some of this activity, and that, again, doesn't lend a lot of credibility, especially if we end up in an interaction with someone or it leads to a court adjudication. So identified callers are more credible than anonymous refused callers. It's easy to call the police and report something, and when we ask for the name and their phone number and we don't get it, it doesn't lend a lot of credibility. So we ask for that, please. And then telephone, phone, computer scam awareness. A lot of people are losing money. They're getting these scam phone calls. If anyone's asking you for money over the phone, my nephew's been arrested, you need, to post bond, things like that, certainly call the Highland Park Police for guidance and do not, give any information. Law enforcement will generally not ask for money over the phone for bond and things like that. So we don't want you to be scammed. You can get on a block list for these scam phone calls. Often at dinner time, you're getting, these calls. Any concerns, just call the police department for guidance. Don't give any information out. And then we often get called to respond to social media conflicts. Just a reminder, be careful what you post on social media. Freedom of speech is a great thing, but social media is a different animal. It creates a lot of conflicts with people, and then we get called to mediate it, investigate it, and a lot of times it's not a law enforcement matter, but you can really avoid conflicts by not posting stuff or reacting to stuff on social media. So we just ask for good decisions with that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, just real quick, dog leash requirements. Is somebody going to hit this? If not, I'll just reminders. We get calls a lot about the dogs, dogs running at large, off leash. So again, please just, familiarize yourself if you've got a dog. We love dogs. We've got a great dog, Duke. Has anybody ever met Duke? If you haven't met Duke, Vinny Duke, oh, he's phenomenal. He's our service wellness dog. We love dogs. And then body cameras, we just want to touch on. We are all wearing body cameras. We started about 3 weeks ago, three weeks ago. And so this also will help us with, obviously, transparency, training. It'll help us, of course, if we've got a criminal investigation that we're working on, it'll help us, with evidence. But just be aware that, officers, if they come to your residence, that they will certainly have body cameras on. If you're in a private residence, and it's not an ongoing, like a domestic or something that's really a crime in progress, you could ask for privacy in your own residence. So you could ask, if you're going to make a report, for instance, you can ask the officer, and, certainly then we can turn it off. But we are dictated by state law when we can do what we can do. So state law is very specific about how these work, and so we're following state law, certainly. So it's not that we've elected to do certain things or not do certain things, so just understand that. But always just ask the officers if you've got questions. But we want people to know that we are, certainly wearing them. We don't want to catch anybody off guard. Okay, communication opportunities. We talked about this a long time ago, early on, and I know the city manager was just going to touch base about, again, staying informed is huge. You being here is a part of that.
Thank you. And I did want to share with the group, as you know, we are having this meeting on Facebook Live, and Mayor Rotering is actually watching us on Facebook right now. So she sends her regrets that she can't be here, but again, thank you everyone for taking the time to be here. And she did want me just to reemphasize the importance of public safety in our community. The mayor and city council are wholeheartedly committed to that. They certainly support our policy recommendations when we make recommendations to the council in that regard, and we're grateful for that. So this slide here includes a snapshot of various different communication modalities that we use to share information with the public. So first is the e-news. We issue an e-news 2 times a week on various programs, services, initiatives. We do recommend that everyone sign up for the e-news. It's easy just to delete it, but please make sure that you get it. When we had the tragedy on July 4th, our e-news was actually our #1 source of communication to relay information to the public. And so you can sign up for that on the front page of the city's website under Stay Connected tab. We also issue a fun weekender that lists a plethora of different fun activities that are taking place over the weekend, but the e-news is important. As part of that e-news, we also have public safety alerts as an option that you can sign up specifically for. And so residents do choose to do that, but again, that's more for a public safety alert that we need to issue. Public safety recommendations, we're not going to issue alerts for, but we want to make sure that the public is aware of those things as well. And so when we start to see trends happening in our community or incidents happening in another community, we're going to relay these public safety recommendations to the public through the e-news and also through our social media. So again, please make sure that you're signed up for that. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I mean, we are trying to capture on every social media network, so please make sure to follow the city through those modalities as well. Those are 2 modalities that we are using to push out information, so you get it directly in your inbox or on your smartphone or whatever device that you use. Our website is updated every single day, and so if we have a media release, for example, that we issue, we will post that media release on the front page of our website. So if you're looking for even more information, our website is a good source for information. And certainly, again, feel free to contact us at any time. I mean, certainly we want to make sure that we are available to answer questions that you may have. The Highlander is issued every other month. That's mailed to every single property in the community, and so it's more of a community magazine because we also have information about there from our government, our sister governments as well. But that's a good communication tool that we use. Smart 911, Director Reynolds is going to talk about in short order, and then if we can go to the next slide really quick. And so Brent, do you want to maybe come up with me because we can tag team this? In March of '22, we partnered with the Village of Glenview, and they actually took the lead to roll out this Citizen Connect portal. So from our website, if you go to the police department page, you can have access to the Citizen Connect portal. And basically what this shows you is this active map that lists highlights of different types of crimes and where they are generally taking place in our community. Now, we're not going to list specific addresses, but we will show you the general kind of vicinity where these are taking place. So just kind of a highlight of some of the major things that we're reporting: burglary to vehicles, general burglary category, there's robbery, sex crimes are actually reported. The address area is listed towards the police department. So any sex crimes will have a police department address. But what happens is if an officer is responding to either a crime in progress or a crime that has occurred, after they complete their reports and it goes through all the approval process with their supervisors, it takes about 1 week, and then that information is then posted on this website. And where you see those numbers in bubbles, so you can see like a 2, 4, 6, if you click on one of those numbers, it'll pop up. So like that 6 is going to pop up 6 different things that are happening in that general area. So you can get an idea of the type of major incidents that are occurring in the general area. And then all of our dispatch partners are featured on the Citizen Connect portal as well. So you can not only see Highland Park, but you can see other areas as well. And again, you may see a lot of bubbles on there, but again, as we take a look at our crime data compared to our neighboring communities or neighborings throughout the region, it's generally consistent trending. And I know that doesn't necessarily give you comfort because you're seeing things that are on there, but we are working closely with our neighboring communities because they are going through the same exact things that we are. So in terms of intelligence and shared reporting, we are in regular communication with them as well.
I was going to say, you have the opportunity to see the Citizens Connect version of this. The police departments all have a much more in-depth view into all the data. So you're seeing a very, I would say, it's great for transparency, but for investigative tools, for actual locations, dates and times and trends, the police department has much more access to the data. So that they can start looking at trends, whether it's in Highland Park or any one of the other communities. I do want to, if you go back for 1 second, not every town that we dispatch for or that Highland Park is partners with is listed here. Highland Park is one of our communities that is very transparent. And I want to say this because I'm independent of the Highland Park, City of Highland Park or the Highland Park Police Department. The professionalism here in this department, the proactive approach to whether it's the beat coordinators, any of the work that you see in Highland Park, you are in a great community, and it's really a pleasure to work with the professionals here in Highland Park. So one of the things that I think is very important to make sure everyone understands, you hear about don't call 911 unless it's an emergency. We want to make sure that everybody understands that an emergency to one person may not be an emergency to others. If you think that it's an emergency, dial 911. We'd rather have you call 911 and have us say, you know what, we'll take your information, but in the future, this type of call could be better handled non-emergency. When you dial 911, your call 9 times out of 10 is going to be answered in the Highland Park 911 center, located in the Highland Park Police Department. But in a situation where we get multiple 911 calls at the same time, it may actually be answered down in Glenview, okay? Yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt that thought. This is a technical matter. Is it from any cell phone or when you're calling from within this town?
So that's a great question. Back in the day, 911 was connected by copper wire that basically ran from the house or business to the central office to the 911 center. It's a lot different now. Wireless phones, they can go anywhere. But the region that we handle here is based upon your location of your phone. So when you dial 911, it's going to the closest cell tower that's available, and then it's getting routed to the 911 center. The reason why that's important is when we answer 911, it doesn't matter if it's a wireless call or your old home phone. We're going to ask you what town you're in. I promise you, it's not because we don't know the towns that we dispatch for. It's to make sure that we don't delay service, right? So you have a road that runs through all the towns that we dispatch for, Green Bay Road. When somebody says they're at an address on Green Bay Road, we want to make sure we're sending help to the right address. So it may be frustrating when you're dialing 911 to be asked what town you're in, but it's a national standard that when you dial 911 that you're going to be asked what town you're in. So just one thing that I want to clear up.
What number do you call?
Okay, so in Highland Park, the number is 847-432-7730. If you dial that number and you, I don't remember what number the prompt is. I believe it's 1 on the list. But if you listen to the call attendant, it will tell you which number to press for dispatch. You press that number and we'll take your call. 847-432-7730. Sure, yeah, absolutely. We get calls on a regular basis from folks out of town that somebody's at their Ring doorbell. So, 7730, yes. So I don't want to spend too much time on what happens when you call 911, but I think it is really important to understand when the chief or any one of the officers talk about the communication that goes on between the communities. We dispatch for basically from Lake Bluff through Kenilworth. Wilmette is not one of our towns that we dispatch for, but they're on the same computer-aided dispatch system, so, and on the same radio frequency as some of the towns we dispatch for. When something's happening, whether it's in Wilmette or Lake Bluff or Highland Park, that information is being shared out amongst all of the communities. So officers are hearing stuff. We had a situation where a auto dealership was being broken into in Lake Bluff. Officers got there, scared them away before they left before the officers got there. Our dispatch center called down to Wilmette, to the dispatch center and said, hey, you might want to check out your auto dealership because we just had this, your sister dealership hit. So we do a lot of interoperability, making sure that we're communicating between all the communities. The Smart 911 application, if you go to smart911.com, you can sign up for information that will give you alerts, not high-level alerts, because I'll talk about iPods here in a minute. But Smart 911, not only does it give you alerts if there's information of activity going on within your community, let's say a water main break where you may need to boil your water, to a missing child. Those types of alerts can be sent out by the village or by the city of Highland Park to your phone, but also you have the ability to put a safety profile in. So you can put information in about your relatives, about your house, your vehicles. So when you dial 911, we have more information to go on than just your name and number when you call. The alerts also include weather, severe weather alerts. Also with the Smart 911, because it's used not only amongst the agencies that we dispatch for, it's also used by the city of Chicago, by unincorporated Cook County and DuPage County. If there's an alert in a town that you're in, you'll get that alert on your phone. This is national. I'm sorry, it is national. So if you're traveling and you have Smart 911 and you're in a community that has Smart 911, you'll get those alerts as well. You want to go back to iPause? So iPause, the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, also known as the Emergency Alerting System. You've probably gotten these on your phone in the middle of the night, whether it's a tornado or an amber alert or a silver alert, which is for elderly missing. That system is a little more involved. You don't have to register for it. It's automatic on your phone unless you go in and turn it off. We're going through the process right now for our 911 center and the agencies that we dispatch for to be able to send out iPause alerts. This will allow us to send an alert to any phone, any device that can receive texts or make phone calls, iPads. We can send out an alert, an emergency alert. So July 4th, if we had iPause at that time, we would have been able to send out an alert to every single call, every single phone within the area. We're going through the approval process right now that will allow us to send these messages out, and you don't have to worry about being signed up for Smart 911. So that's, you don't have to do anything, just have your phone on.
Okay. All right. So we're to the question slide. So if anybody's got questions, this would be the appropriate time to ask any questions. We've had a couple throughout, but we're certainly we'll stay as long as we need to answer any questions that you might have. And if it's something you want to talk about privately, you certainly do that before we leave as well with one of the officers. Anything for the good of the order?
Understood that you have Twitter. Is that just for the city or does the police department also have their own?
Good question. It was about, does the city have a Twitter account? Does the police department have a separate Twitter account? So we have one Twitter account for the city. And so if there is information to relay about police, fire, public works, anything, it all goes through the city's Twitter account. Amanda Civitello is our administrator for that.
Okay. Anything else? If not, I definitely, from all of us at the Highland Park Police Department, City of Highland Park, want to thank you all for coming tonight. Again, means a lot to us just to be able to be here today, to have these questions answered, to be able to give you information, certainly share with your neighbors, your friends. We're available at any time to come out and talk to any groups. We want to make ourselves as available as possible. And so please, please take us up on that. And I think, anything else? Everybody good?
Just encourage you to meet your PBC tonight, guys.
Meet your PBC tonight?
Get to know them.
Yeah. It has something. Stand by, stand by, stand by.
Maybe just two quick things. Things that were answered or maybe add on. As far as the investigation into these burglaries, where is it at? I could say we've made progress and we have avenues we're pursuing. It's about as detailed as I can get, but I just want to let you know we're not stagnant. If there is ever information that we need to release to you, we are. And just to add on to, why is the northwest area seem to be the target? Proximity is one of it. We're dealing with professional organizations here. They know what they're doing. So obviously they want to get out here quick, because I can say that most of this is probably occurring during daytime, late evening hours. So they're using the cover of normal movement to make their movement. Well, they want to get out of here in case something does happen. So proximity to the highway to get out of here is it. We've had some deeper into the city, but what's going to happen is they're thinking, we got side streets and all this. They're thinking about themselves. They don't want to get caught. So proximity to the highway. Also, you live in high-end homes. The bad guys want good stuff. You go where the good things are. That's why they're targeting these areas. So you kind of put this together. You are in the area of a higher probability. Not saying it doesn't happen elsewhere. So just wanted to kind of share that information with you.
All right, please meet your PBCs, and again, thank you for coming out tonight. We really, really, truly appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.